Hello.
Uh-oh.
Looks like we're recording. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's Monday. Are we at 14th already of September? Woohoo! And we've just started a conversation about feedback, offering feedback. Shez has just begun to raise the juiciness for her of having a conversation together about what's feedback and how can we do that in a way that's life-serving for everybody. So back to you, Shez. Let's do that first. Let's hear from you.
Well, there's the feedback piece, and also the weekly calls and the Zoom link, and I wanted to say something about that too. Feedback from last week, and I was saying how much I appreciated your feedback, Barbara, in the Messenger group, and how you noted specific things that you enjoyed and why. And over the weekend, part of me was wanting to, or actually remembering back to the retreat, I had a longing for some kind of structure. I want to say formalized, but I think I mean structure, like having feedback as part of what we do together, because we are trying new things and experimenting and learning together. And so, and I remember that when I was doing NVC foundation trainings, on the second day in the afternoon, we would have a cuppa and we'd all sit down and fill out our feedback forms. And I would do it too for myself. Like, I would reflect on my own experience of the training and note things that I wasn't that happy with, or things that I really enjoyed that were a surprise or whatever. And I am a bit challenged with doing feedback myself, which is probably why I want some kind of structure, and had the idea or to propose or ask if anybody would enjoy to co-create some kind of feedback for me. Maybe if it's on what do you call that thing, Google Drive. I don't know. I really just have a longing for the structure to support me, for myself, and also to offer feedback to others, and to have it captured somehow so that I can access it, or anybody can, or maybe the structure creates some ease, or I don't know, it's about creating a space. Like, when I think about my ceremonial work, it's like it's creating a space to capture something, to express and receive, and it kind of, and I was aware that we didn't do much, that there was in the shed, Karen, you had the feedback, and there was the smiley face and the and then the and probably I'm just realizing that my, in MVC, when we give feedback or appreciation or mourning about, the qualities that weren't present in what we were experiencing, that we make an observation and we say how we feel. And we specifically name what it is that was really wonderful and contributed to our learning or not. So I guess there's some kind of that in essence in the format somehow. But anyway, I'm going to pause and breathe. Kind of wishing I'd gotten grounded before I spoke, so I could have done that in less words.
I think you're longing for brevity, maybe, or effectiveness with your work.
Succinctness, 40 words or less, probably. And I think I did it with my eyes shut as well. I'd really like to be able to speak with my eyes open.
I didn't have a sense of lots of eyes shut. I actually just
Oh,
had
okay.
the sense that you were in the thinking, which possibly is like when I look away and I'm in the thinking of it. I'm not with.
Yeah, yeah. I probably would have liked to have been more connected to my heart and belly than in my head. Thank you.
Yeah. And I also just want to acknowledge like the value of you bringing this piece and the value of the NVC piece to support feedback in a way that's really connecting, not just opinions of like, oh yeah, that was really good. Because I really value hearing feedback in nonviolent communication because there is such a richness to what I can connect to that worked for someone else and what maybe didn't work so well, but was based on their needs. So there's a real sort of clarity about how I could meet needs in specific ways, perhaps better next time. And so there's something to hold on to take forward in the learning process, which is really specific and doable often. And it just promotes that anyway. I also had a weekend of reflecting on feedback, and I had a vision of actually Barbara was sitting in the middle of a circle, and there was the circle of us who had attended, and we all gave that NVC type feedback, and we embedded it in the workshop itself, so that, and I had this sort of dictator idea. It was like, that's it, we're not doing any more workshops without everybody agreeing that we're building in these feedback sections. Because, it's like, I value it so much. It matters to me so much that the women who are willing to step forward and be in this creative space of, designing new things. And really, actually, my own guess is that there's hesitation in me about sitting in the middle and having that sense of like being given feedback, like that there could be some like, oh, that's pretty intense sort of resistancy sort of feeling. And I wonder whether or not this is some way of me expressing my discomfort with receiving, and that's perhaps why I haven't dogged for this feedback piece to be more embedded in all of the workshops so far. Maybe I felt nervous that if I asked all of you beautiful women to put yourself in the position of receiving feedback, that maybe you would dislike it and run away. So I'm just going to ground myself now, and I appreciate being able to share on the subject. Hi, Annie. Welcome. I would super love to hear your check-in, but maybe we'll give you a minute just to land in, and maybe Barbara or Samantha, would you like to comment on this subject of including feedback in workshops so that we actually give each other feedback at the end of our sessions?
You go, Barbara.
Okay, thanks. The image of me being, in the middle and having this feedback coming in from all sides did feel pretty much like, yeah, this is like, no, thank you. That's like, no. I would like the feedback, but not under a condition of I'm in the middle of a circle unable to escape. I think so. But I do really like the idea of receiving the feedback, and it probably would be very, very pleasant. But for me, the thought, like in the workshop I had, I couldn't take it right at the end. At the end, all I want to do is just like, oh my God, or something else like that. I'm just not in the space to even receive warm compliments. It's just like lost on me at that point. So maybe there's a way that it could come soon, but not in that exact moment.
Yeah, really enjoy that. Thank you, Barbara. And Samantha?
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I heard you say, Shays, you sit and give your own feedback, I'm just so I need time to process the whole thing, and I need days, and so I was amazed to hear that. But I love the idea of using the NVC model for feedback, and I loved Karen. I think it's the first time I've ever done a survey that or a form, the way you did a form. There's a software you used, and if we could use that somehow, I think I would, people might, if we wanted to do it in a written form rather than get together again and spend time, that could be a way of someone receiving feedback as well, and just being able to sort of process it in their own time. And just one more thing, also resonate with, it would be hard to be in the circle receiving, I think, but I'd like to stretch myself to do that. And what I do with my workshops is I only give myself positive feedback, and I only accept hearing positive feedback initially until I've had some time, and then I can look at what I could do better next time. That's a bit of a jumble of things, but yeah, I think we're getting somewhere. Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha. Does it feel like time to check in, Annie or Cheryl? Would you like to comment on the feedback?
I just think it's a holding, nurturing space. So to start with, it needs to be, I don't know, something that says about not just celebrations and mournings, but the wondering and the feeling that that resonates in us when we're involved in it. Because by naming the feeling, it really helps that sense of connection within what's happening. I don't know, that's what's alive for me anyway.
Beautiful. Yes, and that is in the model. That's a beautiful part of the process of naming the observation, touching into the feelings that were connected to that observation, having a sense of then connecting down to what needs it met for us, what those feelings were connected to in us. So it's a beautiful, very self-responsible languaging consciousness, and it really supports someone else, from my experience, to have the genuine experience of being received and heard. And that's part of the precious feedback process that I'm really keen to see. And, I'm really getting from this conversation and some other feedback I've had that actually we're not up for being popped in the middle and doing that as a ceremony. We're just not up for that yet. And possibly this is why feedback hasn't happened well so far, is that we haven't got to this point of having a shared conversation about it. The other experience, or the sort of the reality is that when I did feedback forms for the online retreat, I didn't get them filled in. Like, I actually even reminded people and asked a few times in different ways and posted the links around the place. Granted, it wasn't perhaps really in your face because it wasn't my primary objective. I was holding other things, but I was conscious that that feedback piece, I really wanted to, encourage people to fill in reflections on the retreat. I got one long form reflection on the retreat in terms of the form that I created for everyone to fill in on feedback on the retreat. It was a long form, and we got lots of feedback in the closing circle, in the sort of circles towards the end. People were starting to really give feedback just verbally at the end of checkouts and things. So there was feedback, it was in there, but it wasn't possibly as specific and actionable as I would have enjoyed it to be. And that forms beyond the 24 hours of participating seem to just don't end up holding our attention. So it doesn't stay top of mind to go back and do the feedback forms later. So I'm not sure if that's the right strategy either yet, but we're in the ballpark because we're exploring what might work. Can we go to you next, Annie, and say good day and how are you going?
Good morning, afternoon. Big morning, just a few health challenges, and I seem to have reached a point where I'm really clear I have to do things for myself, some things for myself that are a next level of self-care that I'm very challenged by. And yeah, first one today was having chicken bone broth after 26 years as a vegetarian, and it actually felt fabulous. It was just like my gut, and I've been fasting on that this morning, and it's singing to me almost, my body. It's like it's a lot about dropping all these preconceived ideas about health and wellness and my body and what's wrong and right and all these things, and going, actually, can I really intuit what I need here? Because all my tests are coming back clear, like, you know what I mean? It seems left up to me. And I think that's really part of the wise woman paradigm, is actually beginning to be sovereign about our health and well-being, and find, for me anyway, find my way with this, because it's my body, my unwellness or my inflammation, and yeah, so it's an interesting time for me. Yeah, I'm enjoying the conversation on feedback. I think it's a really tricky one for people. I'm wondering, I found these circles I've been doing, our feedback was immediate after this is with we're now singing circles. These are different sort of circles than our one, but same circle, based on gratitude, but also mourning, same as you're talking. But we're asked to find something that happened in that immediate circle and speak of it, like, you know, Karen, I love the tone of your voice because it made me remember how I'm sometimes brash with myself, and therefore the need for safety was met. So something like that, finding an actual tangible something you got, whether it was, you triggered the hell out of me by saying that, but I can see where that, yeah, so it's something like a self-growth process through the feedback. It's not just showering someone in the middle of a circle with something. It's like really stirring up the stew, you know, and so we have to actually think about it. I have to actually think about it myself, you know, and feel what was the most poignant thing here that either triggered me, my mourning or celebration, you know. And it is hard. It's hard to receive and it's hard to give, but it's makes for very fertile ground for growth for all of us. It seems for me now, if I can't, I was talking the other night about keeping my shape. If I can't keep my shape when these triggers or these affirmations are coming to me, I can't stand in my wise woman self. I need to be able to you know, maybe lose it a little and come back or find my way back. But, you know, if I'm going to hold circle, I want to be able to keep my shape. Yeah.
You know, what you've just named, Annie, is so powerful for me in that it finally gives me a why for the feedback process at a next level. Like having my feet planted deeply in the earth and being able to hear the world giving me honest, compassionate feedback of like, where might I grow and where have you grown, and being in a shared mutuality of like, we're in this together, like we are learning, triggering, growing, you know, finding our strength to stand in our trust that we can handle it. Like, so like I feel like there's courage and strength and power in you naming that why for feedback, and it puts it in a whole new like it was almost, it was there, but like it was in that we were talking about the how we were going to do it, and all of a sudden you've connected me to the why it's so precious that we do it. So, and it's not just the learning so I can make my next offering a bit better.
No.
It's learning to be stronger in my wise woman self, to actually bring my full self and my full courage to, you know, expansion, growth, staying true to who I am, and also being willing to hear how it is for others in interacting with what I'm intentioning. Because if I'm intentioning to share, to contribute to people, well, then I'd like to hear if I've met that need for them and for me. So yeah, it's really precious. Thank you, Annie. Back to you, Shez.
Yeah, thank you for articulating that, Annie, because what was coming up for me since I spoke was wanting it to be part of the culture, like wanting to include it in the culture, in the who we are and what we do together is that. So when we enter a session, we already know from the beginning that we're here to receive and experience and also to give back something of that, like, you know, in the way that Barbara did in the feed. And I realized, I think what I told myself was that you did give me some feedback, Barbara. I told myself it was private and it wasn't in that stream. And so I think part of me, if that's accurate, which it may not be, it was about the exercise that Chris and I did with the empathy and not empathy. Yeah, I think part of me wanted to be included in the stream, if in fact I wasn't, and I have to check. But yeah, just that. So I really appreciated your gift of the feedback, not just for me, but for everybody. And I love this idea of, yeah, it being part of the capacity that we're building to articulate and receive and to hold our shape, whatever's coming. Yeah. Thank you.
Shez, I definitely did give some feedback privately to people and some that was through the whole group. And it depended a little bit of when it occurred to me and how much I felt like it was maybe someone's private story, I think, that when I do that. So sometimes it's really, I'm thinking, oh, I want this person to know it in the minute, and I just type it in and it's to them. And then sometimes it's like that feedback is just to them, and is something that it's up to them if they want to share or not. And then,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I hear that, and I do feel like if we had a culture, and I like the idea of maybe some specific questions that we're looking to answer, or a way to do it, that it all becomes okay to be in the field for all of us to see it.
I'm really enjoying in the field, especially in that share, Barbara, because I love the logic of like what you're called to. If it's private, if you'd rather give it privately than in the field, where it's where there's a sort of public acknowledgement happening of both the receiver and the giver. Like in that field, then if you gave feedback that was challenging, then we could hold shares receiving it and you for giving it, because actually something in you has been triggered. And so we could, as a field, we could hold both of you, the giving and the receiving. So there's something very like collectively strong about the potential that we trust each other enough to stand in the field and give and receive. There's something really curious to me about the potency of that as you speak it in the distinction. So yeah, thank you for bringing it. I'm just going in clockwise order as we've been going. Samantha?
Yeah, that is, it's just a whole different vision to have everybody. Yeah, it just makes so much sense all of a sudden to me after having run so many workshops where I go back, go home, read through the feedback sheets on my own. And that is just, I don't want to, yeah, it just feels like a much more wholesome process to do it as a group. Yeah. I think that even in my foundation trainings, I'm going to maybe I could bring that in somehow. I mean, we always end with some kind of appreciation, but it's never okay. That's it. It's just a thought I'm going to sit with, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. And I really value that you're already seeing ways that you could apply it and play with it and test it. And my hope is that if that begins to happen, that we all bring our experiences back of exploring this, so that we can collect, harvest from each other's experiences of like, what design did you start out with and what worked and what didn't. So some, I'm remembering back to you, Shez, saying, some sort of design in the first place of how we do this, and maybe some questions that we ask that are become part of the expectation that these might be the questions that we trial for a little while and see how these go as promoting the feedback or harvesting the feedback that we would enjoy. And we might try to do that as a group. It's interesting to me. It's like if I visually take Barbara out of the middle of the circle and just put her in the circle and put well-being in the middle of the circle, and then we're all around the well-being, and then we're all giving feedback to our experience of that. And it may be specific to the person who was facilitating, but it may be to someone else in the room. It might be like, oh, Shez, you were in the room and you made a comment at halfway point and it was revelationary to me. And that's actually the feedback I most want to give. It may not be to the facilitator. So it's like maybe we start to imagine that there's a field being built each time we offer something. in these sort of collectives, and we think about putting something else in the middle, like our wise woman, our growth as wise women in the middle. That's what we're anchoring to, our why. And then we sit as a circle to hear what came up. It's like that meta view of what we did, and then the meta view of like, how was that for all of us? Coming back to you, Cheryl.
I'm just sitting here loving the thought of what's in the middle. That was just kept reverberating. It just felt perfect. It's that, and it's also that sense of when we did get the retreat feedback, it came within the group because it was already a feeling that was held in the group. I would say that it wanted that space to be in community, not on separate pieces that were disconnected. It sort of, when it's in community, there's a reverberation of the reactions, the feelings, the energy that's been instilled within the session. So yeah, that's what I was feeling.
Beautiful. And that speaks to the quality of the field that gets built in the session, that we can also be naming as part of our feedback, like so enjoying the quality of resonance I'm feeling in my body for the authenticity and the sharing that's happened. I feel, my whole vibration's been raised. That's speaking to the quality of the field that was generated by us all being together the way that we've been. So I'm noticing the time, and we have like 13 minutes. I wanted to just name two things. One, I'm almost curious to do a meta checkout of a round of feedback, in inverted commas, as a meta checkout, and as a practice, putting our wise women selves in the middle, or the energy of that in the middle. And the fact that I would like to honour that this Monday community call space, I have been nominating it as a news channel, a time to keep the rest of the community informed as well about what else is happening for the women who have not been able to get here today but would like to stay across the bits and pieces of news. And I actually have a couple of slides I would like to share just to address that. So if I did that for 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, and then is that something that we might enjoy to do? A bit of a meta checkout? Yeah? Okay, fantastic. Let me do that. I'm going to find the page. Okay. Now we've got it. Okay. So on the back of all my inspiration from last week and the Women's Health Week, I actually was like, oh, when are we next getting together? What have I put in the diary? And I actually went and checked, and the dates for October that I had been calling the next retreat time, when we might also get together as members to do this sort of work and think about how we're co-creating the community space, is 2nd to the 4th of October, which is actually only 3 weekends away. So I just wanted to name it, that this was the proposed dates. Some of you might have in your diaries, but others may not. And so I just wanted to name it. And what I'm seeing is this is a closed event, not open to the public, just for members of Wise Women Rising who are in this exploratory phase with us, and seeing it like a community development conference. And I'm actually seeing it much like an open space conference, so that we bring maybe offerings that we might like to contribute to community development conversations, like nominate conversations that you might like to have. And there's also some sessions being imagined and spoken of already. And one of those is getting a sense from Jeanette what her participation in the new local course, what that's been like, and what she would like to bring back to us from that experience. And there's also, I'm also signing up for a cooperative course between now and the end of the year to learn all about the legals and the requirements for us if we want to become a member-owned cooperative for 2021. So I'm signing up for that, and I'm actually being able to register for that without a fee. So there is options that can be provided at no cost if you have interest in coming along.
Is that the workers' co-op one?
The workers' co-op one. Yeah, I've posted something about it in the.
Yeah, I saw it. I just wondered if it was quite the same as what.
Yeah, because we wouldn't be considered we're not a consumer co-op. We actually would be considered a workers' co-op. Okay. And this is part of the conversation. So that's why I'd be keen to have that at the, what I'm calling a conference, because it just makes the distinction between the retreats we've been doing and actually having a conference about looking inward about how we flourish the community moving forward. So just wanted to bring those dates to your awareness, and I can speak more about those another time. I'm so grateful for the conversation today already about Women's Health Week and some of our reflections. I'm also really curious about digging a little deeper into the village hubs and like where we are, what's working, some of the stories, and where we're going next in the village hubs with groundwork. And that there are a number of members who are not yet in a hub, and so wanting to hold care that we complete that piece of work that we started at the welcome sessions, so that we can actually have everyone having some participation in a hub if they would like to. And also, I have an admission to make. There are a number of you that signed up for a time bank account, and I had thought that I had a link between those forms being submitted and my email account to let me know when you put in a form that I would get a notification, and that link was broken. So actually there's about 7 applications waiting for time banking, and I didn't know they were there until Annie said to me, I've put that application through. And I went, have you? And I went, I better go check what's going on, because I didn't get a notification. I went back and found 7. So I just want to acknowledge that I'm thrilled about that. I'm super excited, and that I will endeavour to get those time bank login details back to you this week. I also wanted to mention that Carolyn Tate is writing a book at the moment called Community Rising. And thank you to Helen, who sent me that notification, and was also like thinking, gosh, wouldn't it be appropriate if Wise Women Rising was part of her interviews for Community Rising as her book, because she's particularly looking at cooperatives and communities that are flourishing in this time. And it sort of feels true for me that we have not got a finished product by any means, but I think we are rising in this space of COVID and rising in this space of the energy of community and cooperation. And so I've put the link in the Facebook members feed, and I would really encourage, if you are willing, to reach out and just send a quick note to Carolyn and say, Wise Women Rising could be a good inclusion in your book, just to encourage her to think about us, because she knows me personally, and I just think that she's possibly considering at the moment that we're not quite developed enough to be included in the book. But there's part of me going, I'm not sure that's true. I actually think we are starting to be more ready to share a little bit more about who we are and what we're doing. So just wanted to mention that. If you have more questions about that, please reach out to me. And next week's session on Monday, I'd like to try to send out a message to all of those who have now signed up on the Wise Women Rising website as members. I will be sending all of those of you who've done that your phone app link, so that the bookings function should start to be, we can test it and play with it next week. so that we can start to book each other for sessions. And I actually would enjoy to have a conversation next week about our hesitance or not to reach out to book time with each other, and like what might get in the way of that, because I think it would be good for us to name both what might be enjoyable about the thought of booking time with each other and also what might be in the way. So that's sort of where I'd like to start with the conversation next week, if that still feels alive. And I've still got in the calendar there another members ceremony to celebrate the year on the 11th to the 13th of December for future dates. So that's it. That's the news wrap up for the week. And I don't have any news music or like can't flash to the weather, but that's news for the week. So now we have 5 minutes or so. If we could take a few extra minutes over, I'd love to hear like a minute, 2 minutes each. And that might be 10 minutes. Is there someone for whom starting feedback feels alive? And we haven't got any meta questions, so you're allowed to just be as open and fluid as is alive for you. There's no...
I'm really grateful for the conversation on feedback today, because I know how important it is, and it feels to me like it's a little like Shavasana that you do at the end of a yoga, and we're shoving it to the end when it's maybe even the most important thing. Yeah, which is a new way of looking. We're so focused on getting our information or our thing across, but what if it wasn't like that? What if it wasn't quite so heady and, about knowledge? What happens if it was about learning about ourselves along the way? And that, as you said, I may find something about another participant that really triggered me or really helped me. But to be able to start to find the language and the words to verbalize that in public without having to go away and, I think we're getting to a stage where we need to be able to process together. We've had a long journey processing alone, and it worked to a certain extent, but we're at new times where I really feel like we can be brave in this, and maybe, it means stepping out of comfort, of course, but I'm grateful for the conversation. It's exciting.
Exciting. Thanks, Annie. Sticks in the middle. Yeah, go Shez.
Thank you, Annie. I really enjoyed the piece you brought about, I think it was the singing feedback. I didn't quite understand it, but I got that it was from some other circle that you're involved with, circles. And I also appreciated the piece that you've written in the chat. That the biomorphic field in which magic happens, that if we start with an intention and a quality of field that we are holding, and why that, something about that giving rise to something. I mean, we've experienced it, but now we're starting to want to find ways to articulate it. So I'm celebrating our movement and the evolving, and I'm kind of laughing at my idea of some kind of Google Doc and how I was in my head at the start coming up with strategies. It's like, oh, that was so not really where what I really longed for. So, and I'm grateful to myself for just starting where I was. So, thank you.
Annie, would you be willing to read the piece that you wrote in the chat? Can you still see it, or do you want someone else to?
I can.
Yeah, could you, Shez? I'm on my phone. It's a bit difficult.
Okay. When we gather and open circle, when we acknowledge the custodians and wise ones on whose shoulders we stand, we are entering a field, a biomorphic field in which magic happens. It asks us to step out of linear time, and the traditional fire in the center is there to both give us light, warm connection, and also a place that can hold all we no longer need, can burn away the dross.
Yeah, thank you. Talking sticks in the middle.
I'm really appreciating how we've not just gone with something, that we've had this flow around for, are we looking for the how? No, maybe we're looking for the why. What is the why? Okay, and then what would be the how, and is that still the why? And it's just, it feels alive, and it feels so much more interesting than it did even at the beginning of the conversation. So thank you.
Thanks, Barbara.
Just to continue that, Barb, I really agree. It's like a shift from, well, what Ches was saying about systems and strategies. It's so easy to get into that, I don't know, it's that more masculine energy, thinking of the feminine and masculine inside of us. It's so much more a feminine energy to just go into that feeling space and the connection. We're all about community, so it's finding those, and I really feel like we've got so much closer to finding that in this discussion. It's been lovely. So thank you all.
Thanks, Sharon.
Just noticing that on Zoom, it's so easy to get ungrounded for me. And yeah, I love the image of being around the fire. I mean, I just so long to actually be together around a fire. And yeah, there's so much we don't get being on Zoom from each other, and so everything needs to be slowed down a lot, which, yeah, I enjoyed the pace of the conversation. We did slow down. I'm just feeling a little bit overwhelmed with having to catch up on all the, I just feel like there's a whole lot of pieces I've missed, and I'd love to have a conversation with you, Karen, and also about the offers and needs market and discuss that. And also I do enjoy some structure, so it's not, and that's the word that she started with, yeah, it's not like, you know, there's a place for all of it. There's a place for all of it, the masculine and the structure and order, and there's a place for feelings, and that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha. Yeah, I'm really valuing today that we've spoken to structure and to culture, what we value, what we want to build into the culture, and also what we value about the structural pieces. And that's why it held importance to me to go back to that news piece and go, this is part of this structure. Monday is for news. So just being able to honour that, I feel grateful for the space too. And it may be that we shift, you know, and choose new structures as we get clearer about what works for us all. But I'm really grateful to be able to hold some of that structure, as well as deepen our understanding of the culture that we're developing together as a community. So thank you so very much. Today's been super powerful. I truly feel like awake, like really in my heart and much more awake than when I started. I was deep in research on car insurance and was way in my head and totally confused. So I've come a long way. I'm a different person exiting the meeting. Anything else I'd love to share before we wave goodbye for now?
Could you stay on for a minute, Karen, please?
Sure. Yeah. Okay, looks like we're complete. Thanks everybody for your time today, and we'll see you next week, same time. Bye for now.
Could we all just turn our mic, unmute and hear ourselves and each other say goodbye?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And I'll finish the recording once we do.
Okay. Bye everybody. Thank you.
Bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Karen.
Bye, everyone.